All right, we're here at episode 82, and we have a very special, as always, we have a very special guest, and I'm going to make a short introduction. He is a submission grappler and mixed martial artist, a competitor since the age of 3. He is currently the youngest IBJJF world champion at black belt level in the history of the sport. In 2019, he competed as a 16-year-old at the highly prestigious ADCC tournament and was the youngest competitor to ever reach the semifinals. Following his promotion to black belt, he became a 2-division WNO champion, world champion at 2022 World Jiu-Jitsu Championship, and bronze medalist at the 2022 ADCC World Championship. He has wins over legends like Gary Tonin, Felipe Pena, Pedro Marinho, Mika Galvao, Johnny Tama, Dante Leon, and many, many others. Most recently defeated Adrian Lee with a rear naked choke in his MMA debut at One Fight Night earlier this month. He is Tye Ruotolo.
Yes,
Sick intro.
Yeah,
I never know what to say when Thank you.
I told you, man, that the list is just going longer and longer and longer.
Thank you.
And
man.
I skipped a lot. I just,
Thank
but
you.
so stoked to have you here. And it's been a long time coming. I always wanted to kind of pick your brain and, different topics. But
Thank you.
when I read about Tye, I realized he was born on Maui.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know. So your ties to Hawaii are like fucking.
Yeah. I don't claim it too hard, because I wasn't raised in Hawaii, but I was born there, I guess. Yeah, my mom had me, my brother there, and we were there for a couple of years, and then moved back to the West Coast when we were like 2-3 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you started jiu-jitsu when you were 3?
Yes. Yeah. 3 years old. Yeah. My dad. He was a blue belt at the time, and he had us scrapping all the time, and he was like, all right, it's time for you guys to hop in class. I remember the first class I took, it was so funny, because my dad was already scrapping with us, he's trying to make us tough, and I go in, it was my first class, and the instructor had a son who was the same age as us, little kid, he's like 3, and I hopped on his back, I put in my hooks, I looked back at my parents, and I went like I was riding the bull, I threw my hand up like the lasso. And my mom, I just seen her face get so mad. It was the instructor's son, he'd already been training and stuff, and she was just and I felt like, oh man, and man, I went home. She was like, you can never do that. I was like, oh, just learning the respect thing immediately on day one, But yeah, ever since that day, I got on the back and I was like, oh, this is the shit. I love this. Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. And it's probably cool that you have a brother that you can train with, who is also like top level elite, that you can just exchange ideas and work on technique.
Yeah, so special to have my brother Cade, and it's been to have him in my pocket, in my corner throughout the whole journey, has been priceless. There's no words that I can say that even hold how much weight that he matters to me, in all that regard, from before the competition, all the little things he says for the mindset, before you're hopping on the fight, to after all the mistakes. It's just always nice to have someone there, supporting.
It feels like you guys are very critical on each other. Like you're very.
Yeah.
Every little detail,
For sure. Even when we fight each other, I feel like we fight each other so much harder than we fight other people, and I think it's just because we're so comfortable with each other. We know like how far we can push it before we're fighting, But also it's like we can get so much done by just cutting out all the bullshit and really just being like, hey, this is what you need, And there's no ego with us. It's just like, it's truly it's what we need, So
I was witnessing it yesterday at the seminar, to see the energy and the dynamic, both of you on the mat, breaking down the technique, explaining how did you get to it, what led you to get to it, and then you said something yesterday where you guys do the same technique, but each one of you would put a different spin on it, like had a different secret sauce to it.
Right.
And I feel like that's so special, because it's the same thing, but in jiu-jitsu you could do the same thing in so many different ways, where it's the same exact armbar or the same exact dars or it's the same exact, but you just a tiny bit of a
little tweak.
tweak.
I always appreciated that part of it, you know, because we're all like, if we all want to do the same move, we have completely different body types, you know what I mean? So it's gonna look a little bit different for us all, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan on you know, to each their own. Everybody's got to do things a little bit differently for their own game, you know. But yeah, there's so many techniques in jiu-jitsu. It's cool.
It's endless.
Yeah.
But I feel like almost it has a lot of resemblance to surfing because surfing, you know, never you're gonna have the same exact wave. You know, every wave is completely different from the one before. Just like with jiu-jitsu, every roll, every time, it's gonna be different because your opponent is giving you different answers every time.
Yeah.
While you're trying to set up something, he's, you know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's like always stays exciting, I would say.
Exactly. I think that's why a lot of people get addicted to it, for sure. You know, it's like, it's kind of like a chess game, like they say that all the time, you know, but it's like, yeah, it truly is one that never ends, you know. He's like always trying to figure stuff out. You never master jiu-jitsu. It's a cool thing. Kind of like the same thing with surfing too, you know. You can never really master surfing.
Yeah.
You got guys like John and Kelly who, I guess you could say they've mastered
Yeah.
it. you know. Yeah, but jiu-jitsu, it's like, it's weird. I guess it's a hard thing to master because people are still creating techniques like every day, you know. So it's like
And the sport's getting massive, like insanely massive. I didn't think, you know, I watched, and I'm coming from a fan standpoint, right, where, you know, I love striking. It's my favorite thing to watch, but I've never imagined the jiu-jitsu portion would grow into selling out arenas like this. Like this, I'm like, and I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because not your general public person wants to get punched in the face all the time, but your general public person who might be sitting behind a desk, analyzing the moves, might get interested because like I can do that, because I can find a secret technique, and there's again so many different possibilities for them.
Totally. You see, like, they say all the time that jiu-jitsu is kind of like a nerdy sport. It's because of how much there is to learn. You know what I mean? At the same time, you got the guys at the highest, you know, top level, so jacked and roided, you know. But like, so it does help to have some strength, for sure. But also, that's like the idea of jiu-jitsu is for the smaller guy to beat the bigger guy. You know? And like, pure technique. You know, I always love that about jiu-jitsu, and that's why my parents even got me into it. My mom was old school fan of UFC and, you know, liked to watch the Hoist Gracie, you know. And she, I like that guy, you know. She didn't know much about anything, but, you know, she saw him, you know, just defying the odds, you know.
But that was mind blowing. You were you even born when Hoist did UFC 1?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm 03. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was before my time. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That blew my mind. Did you watch that one?
Yeah.
Jeez, that was just like, I was shocked. I've never seen that in my life when it happened, you know. I was like,
Such a trip.
what is this guy doing?
I wish I was around for that, for sure. I got to meet Hoist one time. It was the coolest thing ever. It was at a Bellator fight. And I was, oh, nice to meet you, Tye, you know, like, such a big fan. He's like, what do? You know, I'm like, oh, I'm a jiu-jitsu fighter. I'm aspiring to be an MMA fighter, though, you know. And he's like, I got one piece of advice for you. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, let me hear it. You know, and I'm thinking he's gonna have like some really
smart,
beautiful, like good, great advice. And he's just like, don't box. And I'm like, all right, fair enough. You know? It's probably good advice, actually. It's great advice. Yeah, so the last fight, try not to box too much. Shout out to Hoist, took him down immediately.
But your MMA debut against Adrian Lee, you know, his sister was on our podcast, Angela Lee, which is she's a legend. Christian is a legend. Adrian is a legend. He's, you know, I heard only good things about him. And I knew that you're gonna come in, you know, to get the job done. But when he did his up kicks, you know, when you wanted to go into his guard or whatever,
eating those things.
Oh my God! I thought like, no.
That's what everyone was saying. My mom was all rattled on the up kicks. I thought he was gonna stand up, you know, like because I got him down. I thought he did not want to be down. I thought his intentions were to stand up real quick. So I was like, okay, I got to stay over him and stay on top. And I was like, I took one, boom, and I'm like, okay, another one's probably not coming. So I was just trying to stay on the Then he was just riding the bike at one point. I was kind of going with them because I see them coming. I was going with the flow a little bit. when are these things ending? Like, finally came down to the elbow. Great up kicks for sure.
Bruh, there was a moment there, bruh. I was
Yeah.
scared,
A
bruh.
little scary. There was one leg kick he got me with that was excellent. It was so good, right? Perfect placement too. That left me limping for a couple weeks, you know. So
Shit. Yeah.
shout out to Adrian. That was a good leg kick. Great leg kick.
Adrian is the man.
Yeah.
Is the man. And how
Super
do
cool.
you feel about your debut, your performance?
It went good overall for sure.
Yeah.
I took like minimal damage, you know, overall, and got the job done. So
Yeah.
felt comfortable. You know, when it got up to the striking portion, I was real curious to see how I was gonna feel because
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of fun with it, you know, in training. Probably too much fun to the point where I'm not doing enough takedowns, enough jiu-jitsu, you know. And so I was just curious overall what the experience was gonna be like, whether I was gonna try to just get to my safe zone and get to jiu-jitsu right away. And it's kind of like what happened, right? Did a little hook and then took him down right away. But then once it got up to the feet, I was just having so much fun, you know. So overall, it felt really good to be in there.
I think it's very important to have the right balance between stand up and ground, because
Right.
if you cannot be just ground like Damian Maya where you're just running after the legs, or what's his name, Ryan Hall,
Right.
You know, or just trying to leg lock or
Yeah,
just
it's-
trying to entangle.
It'll work until it doesn't, right? Like,
But at the same time, look at BJ where he
yeah.
at one point only wanted to scrap.
Right.
And didn't want to take it to the ground. He's like, let's fucking go.
Yeah, he was
But you're
the
like,
sickest.
dude, you're the best at jiu-jitsu. Just take him down,
Yeah.
choke the fucker.
Just be smart, VJ. Like,
Yeah.
Fell in love,
we're
bro.
going.
Yeah.
The best, dude. I love that guy so much. It was so sick to see him at the seminar yesterday. He's
Nice.
the best.
Yeah. A lot of people came yesterday to the seminar. It was pretty impressive to see, to be honest, because the street was closed. There was a parade yesterday, so
Oh,
the
that's right.
Kalakaua was closed.
The Aloha Festival, yeah.
Yeah,
something.
and you know, in Hawaii, if it's inconvenient, most of the people are not going to go for it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, is there parking? Is there close by? Is there an AC? Is there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bruh, it was full house. It was packed. I'm talking about close to maybe 100 people.
Yeah, they're so stoked. That was rad.
Yeah, it was insane. I couldn't
Rad
believe my
turnout.
eyes that so many people came, even though the street was closed, even though there was so many things going on in town that day. It was pretty impressive to see.
I have so much fun those seminar days. You know, you get all the people from all over and all for just one reason. You know, just
Yeah.
for jiu-jitsu. Yeah, it's good
It was
fun. Yeah.
definitely an epic turnout. Epic turnout.
Thank you.
And are you doing a lot of seminars, or you're trying to stay away?
Yeah, here and there, you know, just when we have the time, we do them for sure. Just a little busy with the competition scene. Right now, my brother's just healing from an injury, so he's kind of doing a lot of seminars right now just to kind of stay busy. But,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah,
he cannot
we'll get
train?
time. He's he had a torn ACL. He had to replace. He had a surgery. He got to replace full replacement. So I think he got it from the quad, and then it's been about 7 months, I think, post-op now. So he's able to train here real soon. You know, he's just been on the PT and, you know, little.
Yeah.
He's just been shadow boxing all day. Yeah, it's funny how when you get injured, you just want to fight so much more. You know, just because you got nothing to, you know. So for the past 7 months, it's so funny. Like all the camps I've been going through. Oh, it's like he's been chomping at the bit, you know, he's talking so much shit. I would have done way better. You know? Like, you can barely even do a squat right now. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah,
Dang.
That's crazy.
it sucks. But part of the game.
Part of the game,
Yeah.
man. Especially in MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
A big one, you know, when you're doing it for a job, you're going at the highest level as hard as you can. You can get around it if you're kind of cruising a little bit. You got good partners. I always say, if you want to do jiu-jitsu for a long time, pick your partners. You know,
For
'cause
sure.
otherwise you're gonna age in dog years. You know, for sure, because it's not the easiest on the body. You know, but yeah, if you can pick your partners, then you should be good to go. You know, for a long
How
time.
many days a week you train?
Super random. Pat always gets on me for that. You know, Pat's kind of almost like my little manager, fight manager. Yeah, at least for MMA, he knows so much about it. Actually, yeah. So it's good to have him in the corner. But I'd say like for a jiu-jitsu match, about 4 times a week. You know, for MMA, maybe even a little bit more. You know, just to make sure it's all new for me, you know, the MMA stuff. So I'm just trying to learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
Well, what intrigued you to make the hop to MMA?
I always just wanted to, you know,
Yeah.
just growing up, I always knew I wanted to fight, you know, but just felt like I had so much priorities in jiu-jitsu first that I had to handle, and then didn't even really think it was the right time when we did it, but Cade started. He goes, I'm not waiting any longer. You know, Cade's a little hothead almost. You know, a little bit, respectfully. You know, he's like a respectful hot. Inside, he's got so much fight inside.
Rush
you know,
him, huh?
yeah, exactly. He's definitely got a little rooster in there. But, so he was like, he did the first fight, and at the time I was injured. I had just torn my knee pretty good. So he was like, all right, I'm gonna start scrapping MMA because my jiu-jitsu partner's, you know, out for, you know, a good bit. So that's what he did. He did 3 matches and then all first round finishes. Yeah, he did. Yeah, his first match.
He actually also
really
fought a Hawaiian dude. He fought, Cooper's brother.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Blake Cooper.
Yeah.
Hammers. Super. Yeah.
Where was that at?
I was in. I don't know why one puts us against all Hawaiians all the time. I was in for one championship. Where was that? That was probably Thailand or Japan. One of the two. I forget.
Yeah. After Ray Cooper, his brother, won the PFL, the $1 million, he came on the podcast.
Sick.
And we asked him something like, what you gonna do? You know, what's the first thing you're gonna do when you... So I'm just gonna go zippies. I'm like, bruh, this is so legendary.
Standard.
This is so legendary, you know?
So standard.
Love those guys. And they're training
Simple.
hard too, which is another family that you can see, bruh. They were just, you know, also the Tainanas family, Lowen Tainanas?
Yep, I know
and
that.
his
Yep,
family,
name.
Micah and Tyson, and even their dad, bruh. You know, they're all training together. I think it's almost like you have an advantage if all the family is in it. They keep you honest, you know, and they keep you on your toes.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know.
You can't replace family, you know, like it's the most. I've seen some instructors, you know, and they have their students, they go compete, they lose, and they just walk away. You know what I mean? Like that's the family. Your family's not gonna do that to you.
Yeah.
You know, I hope not. You know, yeah, I do. But like that's like that's the stuff, like win, lose, or draw, having people like that around you, that's the most important thing in the world, you know? So, right?
Yeah.
So I hear this quite a bit so far. Does your mom train?
Yeah, she's like, it's so funny because she's watched it her whole life. She's gone through some injuries, you know, so she hasn't physically trained so much. She's only like a blue belt, if that. But she can do like a perfect berimbolo to the back with like a leg drag. She can do the craziest stuff. She knows so much, but yeah, she's only like a blue belt. You know, she hasn't trained too much.
Because you know, from when you were a little kid, you keep referencing like she was there, getting on our ass and all that. So,
Yeah.
so does she play a part of you guys', or what part does she play in your guys' discipline?
My parents have been everything. My mom, for a long time we were driving from Huntington Beach to San Diego, which is about a 1.5 hour drive, you know. So we were doing that drive like 4 times a week. My mom was, you know, just to take us to training. And we'd go train in the morning. She'd homeschool us throughout the day. And then we'd train at night. We'd go drive back home another 1.5 hours. So we were doing that like 3-4 days a week for years and years and years. And, you know, she sacrificed everything personally for herself, you know, for my brother and I, and, you know, and the kids. So I owe everything to Mama Bear for sure. You know, every time she's been in pretty much every competition. You know, she's missed. I mean, there's been thousands. You know, and she's been probably count on one hand the ones she's missed. You know, and yeah, it's crazy. Same for my dad. He's just they've always just supported us. You know, as much as we've ever could have hoped. So. Yeah, all the respect and all the credit to them for sure. None of it would be possible without them, for sure. So.
How long were you homeschooled for?
When we were middle school, we started homeschool. So all the way through. Yeah, pretty much from middle school all the way through. So
and that way you would have time to go train? Is that why you guys homeschooled?
Exactly, majority. Also public school back home at Huntington, they were just kind of over it. They just exposure to a lot of bullshit, and they weren't stoked on, you know. And Kate and I remember it was so funny. we were going to school one time, and because we're a little darker, but we're not that dark. We're a little darker, you know. I never even known my whole life really what I hate. Like, you know, that's why I always, you know, I did the shave this morning. I thought it made me look blacker. I went to with the handlebar. It wasn't even intentional, you know. I always forget, like, oh, I look darker. But so we were in like 3rd grade or something, and there was this kid, a couple, always the bully in class, you know, and a couple years older, and we were on the playground. He was calling us the N-word, you know. He was calling us nigga. You know, I don't know how the word, what I can say on here, but, you know, he's calling us. And I didn't know what it meant, and neither did Caden, you know. And you know, so he's like, what does that mean? You know, talking to each other, you know. So we go home to my mom, and we're like, hey, Mom, what does nigga mean, you know? And she's like, oh, where'd you learn that? Who said that, you know? I don't know, this kid kept calling us this, you know? Like, it wasn't like, you didn't seem like you had a good vibe, you know? I'm like, what does it mean, you know? My mom didn't want to tell me, you know? I'm like, what does it mean, you know? You know, I think she tried to told me or whatever, you know? I was like, oh, whatever. We came back like the next day. So funny. But we just generally didn't know what it meant, you know? Like, we were like, and then I remember this kid, he like pushed Cade, and then it was pretty on, because my mom always said we couldn't touch anybody. We were doing so much, we were doing jiu-jitsu since we were 3, you know? So we were like 11 or 12 at this point, I think, you know? So we already been training for a long time, you know? And so, yeah, the kid pushed Cade. My mom said, like, as long as, especially with these kids, because they were just always troublemakers in Huntington. So they're like, if these kids ever did anything, if they touch you, you know, you got the green light, you're good to go. So Cade just, boom, double leg, boom, straight to knee on belly. And then just did like 4 elbows right to his nose. Yeah. Like it was like instinctual, you know? And I was like, oh shit. Yeah, it's like 12 years old. The kid was like way bigger and older, you know? It's boom. Like he had a bloody nose, got up, like ran away. He was all crying and rattled, you know? It was so funny.
I bet I bet nobody bullied you anymore.
Yeah, not really. No one really tried too much. Yeah. Kid and I are always trying to be like the enforcers in school, you know, like playing God's role almost. Hey, you can't do that, you know. But, and then we got homeschooled, and then it's all focused, you know. But, yeah, there's just all that bad exposure in the public stuff my mom didn't want us exposed to, and she was just trying to keep us on track for jiu-jitsu. It was weird because back then there's no money in the sport of jiu-jitsu. You know, like they're investing everything. My mom, all her time doing. My dad, like all his money, you know, doing privates and, you know, getting privates for us. And, you know, I always say, like, for having the upbringing of building a jiu-jitsu athlete, you know, I always say, like, my brother and I were so blessed. I truly think it's, like, one of the best upbringings you could have for creating an athlete, you know. It's like, at the time, a jiu-jitsu athlete, at the time, there wasn't much jiu-jitsu, even in California when I started, you know, in Huntington Beach, there wasn't much, you know. So to have, like, the support from my parents, like, hey, these kids are gonna, I don't know why, they just like, I guess they just had belief in us since like the first class, you know, like these guys are gonna be pro athletes, you know. And there was no money in the sport, so they were just taking a big gamble, you know, and, you know, buying a bunch of privates and, you know, putting so much effort and time. And and there wasn't money into the sport until like the last like 5-10 years maybe, you know, not even that, like
maybe
last 5 years. There's like, before that, you had to go open up a gym, invest all your time, you know. And
become a sensei, a teacher.
Grow your school, you know, maybe get some affiliates, and then,
But definitely the sport has changed. But how do you feel about, because there's evolution of jiu-jitsu. So the jiu-jitsu that we started 10 years ago is not the jiu-jitsu that we do today. And there was a huge evolution from the original Brazilian that, you know, in the academies and to what is going on right now on the mats. Like the evolution was crazy. Did you feel like you had to constantly catch up?
Totally, I think the main thing that Kate and I have kept close to our hearts, and something Marcelo Garcia told me last time I was in, you know, on the North Shore, got the privilege to train with him, you know, such a blessing. He's so sick. And I asked him, I go, well, what's some advice that you have for me, you know? And I go, because there's probably no one else, you know, in the jiu-jitsu world, you know, he's lived so much, you know, so much, you know. He goes, honestly, it sounds so cliche, but just keep an open mind, because the second you close it, you're going to stop learning, you know. I've seen it happen to so many people, and you keep an open mind, you know, you can learn so much from everyone, you know. And that's the truth. It's the craziest thing. Like, I've learned so many techniques from just the most random. There's this guy back home at Atos. He won the purple belt worlds on acid, right? He's like a triple, right? He's like he's like 6'2", 165 pounds, right? Not even 6'2", 160, like real skinny guy, tall and lengthy, you know. And he just comes in all stony all the time, and just so like he does mushies consistently, not like, you know, like here and there, you know. So you could tell he's just like a tripper. He comes in and then he just hit the buggy choke on Kynan. He hits the buggy choke on Cade. He hits the buggy choke on all the best guys in the gym. And we're just like, what the heck, Justin? You know, he just comes in all freaking just subbing the best world champions, you know. And so you can learn something from anybody, you know. And that's where we learned the buggy choke from, you know. So it's cool. It's one of my favorite things about jiu-jitsu, you know.
Yeah.
It's constantly learning.
Actually, when I went to Atos and I trained Mike Perez and you know, Lucas Barbosa, they were all. It was a great training, but I felt like you have to be next level to be in that room. At Atos on the mats, like nobody gonna give you like nobody gonna go easy.
Right.
Like you there, you step on the mat, you gotta be. So when
Kind of like paddling out at pipe, I would assume.
yeah.
You're like, oh, there's not too much cushion here. Yeah, you know.
No room for error.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the comp class, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how did it feel for you that suddenly as a kid you switched from AOJ, went to Atos, and now you're there with all those humongous people? I mean, you're not small, but when you moved there, you were way smaller than now.
Way smaller, yeah. I was a kid, you know, so definitely when you're going at such a big strength disadvantage or whatever, discrepancy, you know, but also at such a high intensity, you just got to be real careful, you know, because they've got so much strength and weight that they're moving around that if you're not kind of like going with it, then you're gonna get broken sooner or later. Like we had a lot of injuries, you know, coming from, you know, just training in class with the big boys, you know, and it's hard to get around, you know, just because at the end of the day, you know, when you're moving with that much weight and that much size and strength, you know, especially to get a little mad or whatever, you know, you're like, oh shit, here we go. You know, so yeah, it's definitely, we had to learn how to train smart and how to not get injured, you know. Like before anything, any room I go to in the world, and if I'm training, the first thing I'm thinking is how to not get injured, you know. And then it's the rest of my game, you know, all my attacks and everything else. But first and foremost, it's not getting injured, you know, because that's more important than anything else. You know, you get injured, you're out. There's no more training, you know. So I always try to.
It's also now your business.
Exactly.
So that's your job. If you get hurt, what you're gonna do now? Or you cannot compete. You cannot continue your progress. So of course, not getting injured is on top of the list. For me, I always try not to get injured because I know I gotta wake up at 6 a.m.
and go get shit done, right? Yeah. No, totally. Injuries suck, dude.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like you can get more injured in jiu-jitsu than in MMA, because in MMA, when you guys train before, you have like the pads, you have, you know, headgear, you have gloves, and you're not going to go ham.
Right.
But sometimes in jiu-jitsu, especially when there's big guys.
Yeah. Limbs are getting twisted up and they're moving real quick. Yeah, I noticed that. MMA, it's a lot more bumps and bruises compared to like limbs kind of getting torn and stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy.
You're in the hurt business. It is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the one thing that Cade said. He goes, "Thank you." He goes, "It's way more." It's so much quicker, and it's not like you can think. You know, in jiu-jitsu, you have time to set up.
Yeah.
You have time to go if someone starts to do something better. You know, start to get up on you. You have time to kind of counter it before. You know, MMA, there's no time for that. You know, you make a big mistake and you're asleep, you know, so it's like stakes are so much higher, you know.
Yes.
I remember his last fight, Cade thought like, oh, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to set, you know, high-low into a takedown. The guy came and ran straight at him. He's like, oh shit, high kick, boom. You know, it's like, you know, half the time you don't do what you're thinking you're going to do, you know. It's
a lot of reaction.
Got to stay present, you know. That's one thing that Cade and I, we've always tried to make it a point, is to stay present in competition, because It's really hard to, I've seen a lot of my, teammates and stuff. I remember my friend, I love JP, so shout out JP just in case you see this. Yeah, but I remember I was coaching JP, and he sometimes gets a little stressed out with the comps, and he's like, all right, Tye, I'm coming up. And I'm like, I'm right here behind you, bro. Like, I know you're coming up. And he's like looking back, and he looks back in front, and he trips over this cord, and then he's just not real present, before the fight. He's like worried about other stuff, and he's not thinking about what he needs to do, And being present, I think it's just, you see at the highest level, is one of the biggest tools, And I remember there was this one match that I had with Isaac Mitchell.
Yes.
And right after the match, I had the weirdest response. Everything went good. I subbed him real quick, and then right after the match, I had like this. They call it like a vagus nerve response. Have you heard of it? But my hands started shaking, and like vibrating, and then my legs started doing the same thing, I'm like, so I was like, whoa, it feels like I'm like seizing, So I was like, went back on my back, and then my whole body was like shaking, and my eyes started to roll back, and my brother was tripping out. I was in the back room right after the match, and it was the weirdest thing because the match just went perfect. I just subbed him in like 4 minutes, no damage. It was jiu-jitsu, So I'm shaking, my eyes are rolling back, and in my mind I was breathing real strong, like, but apparently I was just like in a freezer, just like barely breathing, and it's like fucking, I was starting to seize, and I was like, it was just the weirdest thing because it's out of nowhere, And I think it was just like I was going through some stress with life stuff, some family stuff, I think just the stress of the competition, everything kind of came together after that point, all the adrenaline, and then it was kind of like an override, like my body just couldn't handle it,
Wow.
And then for about a month after that, it was fine. I after about 5 minutes, I kind of like came to, and I was just like, my brother was tripping. He's like, what the fuck? And then we chopped it down to a vagus nerve response, and then for about a month after that, at least a month, I would go train, and I just felt so dead. Just like from the like imagine like a tree of life with roots. It just felt like just dead from the inside, just like no sharpness, no connection, and my joints were super achy too. I think it was all coming from, and this is kind of like the way that my head was sitting on my spine, it does so much to your body, so many signals, and it was just like, just that connection there was just like shutting me down, and I had another match with Joseph Chen coming up, and my brother was so pissed because like I'd go train, give like minimal effort because everything's just achy. I feel like I'm 65, and I'm just like, I'm over this, and then I'd bounce out and I'd take like a little road trip or something, and he's like, where the fuck are you? You need to be training, and I'd be like swimming or just kind of trying to like relax. I knew my body was just too stressed out. I knew it couldn't be training. Like every time I'd train, it would just keep breaking,
Yeah.
And so I was just doing the opposite. I was just like, cruising, go on a hike or whatever, swim in a river. And then right before the match, it was the weirdest thing. Like, boom, we were in this warm-up area. All these Thai fighters are hitting pads, so it's all this loud smacking. And my fight's coming up, right? And I've fought my whole life. I'm not normally one to get real stressed out, with fights, but the energy's up, in the warm-up area. And then like the same thing was starting, I was almost starting to feel like how I did after with Isaac, right before the match with Joseph,
Holy shit.
So like, I'm starting to get like, my breath starting to get a little faint, and like I'm trying to warm up with my brother, and I'm like trying to touch his shoulders, and like I'm literally feeling like I'm like drunk and like hungover, like just dead from the inside. And I'm on in like 15 minutes, and I'm like, oh shit, like this is like not good, and I'm like all stressed, like why would I? And it was the weirdest thing. Like I almost started, I'm not like emotional, I almost started to like tear up a little bit, because it was like same thing when after the response with Isaac, I started like to have that seizure kind of thing, and like I was tearing up. It was the same thing right before the match. Like my breath was starting to get choppy. I started to tear. I was like, why am I As I take my brother to the side, I look him in the eyes, like, brother. I'm like, Cade, that same shit's going on. Look at me. I'm not crying. I'm just fucking, my body, I can't, I don't know what's going on, It's just like I'm feeling dead from the inside out, And he's like, dude, he's like, oh shit, like let's get out of here. Let's relax, So I left the warm-up area. I was on in like 15 minutes. Staff's all looking for me, I went outside. It's in Thailand, it's a beautiful, a lot of jungle and a lot of forest, right outside the venue. And like there's this planter box with, soil and plants. And I'm like, I know I need to relax, you know? So I threw on my headphones. I think I had like Erykah Badu or something real mellow going on, you know? And I just went outside in the planter box. I put my feet in there, and then I was just like looking up at the sun. I was just singing. I was just like doing everything I could just to like take myself out of this like fight mode, you know? I was just like, oh, I'm just present here, calm, you know? And then I got to calm down a little bit, and then got to like, didn't feel great, but like wasn't like dead, you know what I mean? Still felt like I could go. So I went out, and it wasn't the greatest performance I ever had, but it was good enough, you know? But like that day really proved to me how important it is to stay present, you know? And you know, for me, I had to go all the way outside in the planter box to do so, you know what I mean? But that's like the most important thing for me. So that way, I remember like right before the match, I was just like so calm, you know? I just went from being so all weird, and I was just so calm, and I was like, okay, I just got to execute my game plan. It's very simple, you know. There's nothing else. That all the fans, all the lights, nothing matters. It's very simple. Just execute the game plan, you know.
That's a beautiful, you know, that you were able to control your thoughts and set your mind up for success rather than failure. A lot of people fail to, because when you have that inner argument with yourself and you're like tripping, it can very easily spiral and get worse. Totally. So the fact that you were able to bring yourself back, man, it's all because of Erykah Badu.
Yeah. Little reggae music, never heard. Yeah, for sure.
I think it was the Aino, bro. You put your foot back in the dirt, that's connecting right there. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like that, just like
straight up. And
you know, when you put your bare foot down, which a lot of people don't really do, especially in the States, right? Nobody
100%.
takes off their shoes or flip flops.
Yeah.
You know, but I feel very strongly about connecting with the land. You know what I mean? Because that's where we go when we're done.
Exactly,
right?
bro. Exactly.
You know?
Feel it, dude. That's why I feel like there's, even when people from the States, they come here to Hawaii too, and you know, they lose their shoes for the first time in a couple months, right, or whatever, and their feet are in the sand.
Yes.
Like, I never thought about that.
This place is amazing. It's different, you know, and it is. There's so much aloha, and it's gorgeous, but like, you're connecting too.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. I was like, oh yeah, you reconnected with the earth. That's connecting with everybody else. You realize it's not that crazy.
Right. Yeah. None of it's that crazy, you know.
But it can be blinding. I'm not gonna lie. Like I work in entertainment, you know, so I work with lights, shows, the whole nine. People screaming and controlling anything. That energy can be really, really like it could change a person's whole being.
100%.
Right? They lose themselves into their egos. They start believing in their height more than themselves.
Totally.
It's like they like me because of this. Like Conor McGregor is a great example. Granted, he's a businessman now, and it's a perfect thing for him to do. But he's completely sold himself into the idea of Conor McGregor, as opposed to.
He's seen in the beginning of his career, he was so sharp and focused.
Yes.
Yeah, he had so much sick quotes, and it wasn't so much about having fun as it was about, you know, being on the journey. Right? But
now he's successful at being, you know, the mouthpiece and the personality, that he's more of that to me than he is actually of the arts anymore. You know, I mean, he shows that he's passionate about it, but I don't think he could catch any dubs going forward.
Speaking of
tough, right? I don't know. He's got to redo the whole lifestyle. You know, that's
you got to go back
thing.
to the grit. That's a crazy. I mean, fighting itself is a crazy everyday thing. I mean,
it's a lot of energy. You know, like you're saying, there's so much energy.
And I'm sure you think about
so
fighting every day. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you hear what he was asking to fight in the White House?
He was, huh?
So he was asking for $100 million, but he was asking also for 100 green cards for his family and friends and whatnot. So a total of 200 million, because now you can actually buy for
card.
1 million.
Or the gold card or whatever.
Yeah, the gold card, correct.
The president was selling.
Wow.
So he's like,
which is like an instant, like instant citizen. Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I'll take 100 mil and 100 green cards. They're like, right, shut the fuck up, man.
He's in that world.
All the Mexicans are just rattled.
Oh, we're Irish now, huh? We can be Irish now. Who built this country, huh?
I live in San Diego, you know.
That's classic.
It's crazy.
Oh,
That's so funny.
that one was a good one. Throughout your career, you had all kind of crazy moments, which I was trying to, select a few. And I want you to give me your first thought. I will give you the situation, and you give me your first thought.
Mm-hmm.
You are brown belt, and you have to face your brother in the finals, and you have to fight, and you cannot, you have to fight your brother, and you have to go hard. What was the feeling?
That was so funny. Just real quick little recap into that. 2 days before the event, I was in Costa Rica. I didn't think I was doing it. I was just cruising. I was like 16 pounds overweight. I probably had a couple pina coladas that week. I was cruising. And my mom convinced me. She's like, "No, come back, do it with your brother. Close it out." I don't know why I wasn't gonna do it. I was like, "All right, fine." I fly back home. I had 2 days to lose like 16 pounds, so I got it done. But I remember I felt so shitty. And every fight I had to the finals, me and my brother on opposite sides, it was a struggle, like a battle. Like I remember my forearms and my hips were both cramping at the same time. Like in like majority of my matches, so I'd be going, and all of a sudden my grips would start to be like this, and I'd be like, "Oh shit," using my hands, my arms, I remember I thank God I got these 2 points. I took this kid down. It was from like my rival gym, just from AOJ, So back when I went to Atos, I was like, got this AOJ kid down, put me in closed guard, and then literally my forearms and my hips were cramping all at the same time, like gnarly, because I just lost all water weight, and then I just held him there for the rest of the match, close guard out there, we're good. So I just had wars all the way through, tough ones. And Cade was on fire, just subbing everybody, just looking sick, sharp, And I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be gnarly, I was really thinking honestly, like he's probably gonna win, just cause that's how it always was. Like we're like this, So whoever's feeling better is usually who's winning, And he was destroying me the whole match, It was a little bit back and forth, but he was definitely winning. And then I just had one last burst of energy. I remember I just gave it my all, and I got him in an arm bar. And I remember he just was so rattled. His reaction as soon as I got him, we went like, I can't believe it. That one held a lot because we had fought twice before that, in competitions, and I beat him twice. But the first time he should have won. It was a referee decision, and he should have won, and they gave it to me. And the second time I knee barred him, I got lucky, so now he's like, that was the one to get it back, and then he was beating me, he should have beat me, and then I got him. So he's definitely, I'm sure, chomping at the bit to get one back. Yeah.
Nice.
It was so funny.
That was a good one. Now, the second situation, ADCC, Cade is fighting Mika Galvao for the belt. You go back and forth, great match, and then suddenly you yell him the leg lock. You saw it, you recognized it, you called it out, he heard it, he went for it, and he fucking submitted Mika Galvao to be the champ, man.
So sick.
How was that moment?
Wow. I already get a little shivers thinking about it. So probably like one of the proudest moments that I ever have been of my brother, for sure. I think it was the proudest moment I've ever been of my brother. Mika's always been one of our like arch nemesis, you could say. You know? We first fought Mika. I was 14 in the green belt, and I got him in a Kimura in the gi, and he wasn't quite as strong as he got to be, But I could tell like this kid is going to be tough one day. And 2 years later, we fought again in the open class division. And I had teammates at the time at Atos, big, strong guys, really strong, and I was doing really great with all of them, and I fought Mika at the Europeans, and I was full of confidence. I'm like, okay, I subbed this kid a couple years ago. He's been on a tear ever since, but I should be able to. He was like 20 pounds heavier, but I'm like, I got him, And I remember I just had never felt strength like that before in my whole life. Like even like all my grown adult teammates, we were 16. I remember like all my teammates were like not even close to as strong as he was, And I'm just like, what the heck? I remember he put me in closed guard, and I was just holding my hand next to my side so he wouldn't arm drag me, right? One arm, he just pulls my arm across. And I was just confused. I was like, whoa, that was weird, And then so we start to scramble. He almost gets to my back. I tries to put me in a choke. I get out. Then he puts me in like this arm bar, like the shittiest arm bar ever. Like how the little kids, they'll grab the arm, the wrist, and they'll throw their leg over, but they don't have the elbow in at all. That's what it looked like, So like you can kind of like pass into side control. And then from there, I'm like almost in side control. He starts just like pulling my arm deeper from like the little kid arm bar, It's never happened to me before. I'm like, what the heck? So I escape out of that one, roll out. And I'm at this point, the score is like 10-0, and he's I've just never felt strength like this before in my whole life, There was nothing that I could have done, like technically it felt like. Yeah. And it was so funny. I remember the whole match. His dad was just speaking in Portuguese. He was saying, "Força, força, mais força, força." Just like stronger, Mika, stronger. I'm like, well, that's a weird thing to be saying. Like usually you give like technical advice. He's just saying, "Força, Mika, força." And then, so I'm rolling through. I'm defending all this shit, and then I get like a little sweep at the end, and then it was like 12-2. And I remember I looked at my brother, and I was like, "Fuck!" I was just so disappointed. But he also realized like there was just nothing I could have done, Like he wasn't even mad at me or disappointed. He was just like, what the heck? Like that was crazy, And that's when we really got discouraged from the gi, because gi can manipulate guys really well. No gi, you can move a little bit better without, the strength doesn't matter as much. No gi, So I remember that really competition kind of like, I'm over the gi, A couple of years we were over the gi, and then we fought again in the gi world championships, in the finals. And that's why technically I don't even like to consider myself a gi world champion, because I didn't win the finals against Mika. I lost by 2 points, same deal. I was way better than the last time I fought him in the gi, and I knew it was going to be a war because I knew how strong he was, So I was like, oh, here we go. And I was able to do a lot better. Fucking had some good attacks, but couldn't pull it off. I lost by 2 points. And then like 6 months later, IBJJF comes back, and I'm in Costa Rica chilling, and then they tell me, hey, Mika got popped for steroids, and then there was some rumors he had like 3 different types running through his system, and then he had to get his lawyers on it, and then, I don't know. Long story short, he got popped, and then after that we had the ADCC. Oh, honestly, ADCC could have been before. I honestly can't even remember. I think ADCC was after, yeah. So Mika was like a nemesis to us always, to say the least. We got to get this guy, Nogi, he's never beaten us. So it was always easier for us because technique, is less strength mattered, And then, so to see Cade get that sub in the finals, like there's a lot of history behind it, And then, dude, there was just so much. I was just so proud of him, He went straight into the Nate Diaz flex. So. That was controversial. You could rock it if you asked Nate first. I was so stoked for him. No, that was crazy.
I was in the crowd.
Oh, no way.
And that moment was priceless. We all felt what you guys felt. And that moment was like insane.
So crazy.
The energy. You remember how the crowd went nuts?
Everyone.
And then Cade went nuts, and the crowd went even nuts.
Everybody. Bruce Buffer was there. Bruce Buffer did it. It was so cool. Yeah. It was such a cool moment, right, as he was getting the finish, because Mika put his leg in danger, and he didn't realize it, But me and Cade both realized it, And so I didn't want Mika to know that Cade was this close to finishing him. So instead of saying like, oh, heel hook or whatever, I was like, there it is. And I see Cade, he just rips the heel hook and just like no hesitation, and then boom. And then Mika was like tapping. I was like, he did it. I was so stoked. It was unreal.
Yeah, that was a legendary moment.
Yeah. Thanks for asking about that. I love reliving those moments, dude. So grateful.
There's another moment that for me personally, I was blown away when you submitted Gary Tonin in 97 seconds.
Thank you.
He was You know, I trained with him a few times when he was here. I just texted him the other week when, you know, he got married. He had a birthday right after. I really look up to him. I think like his game is amazing. He was always like scrambly, always getting out of shit. You know, I grew up on that fight that he had against Paul Harris. You know, at
Yeah, that was the sickest thing. Was that Polaris or something
Polaris.
like that? Yeah,
It was a crazy fight.
one of the sickest fights of all. He's responsible for many of the sickest of all time. You know,
Yeah.
grappling matches. As far as like jiu-jitsu goes, he's probably the best representative of it. And as far as like, if you wanted to show someone who didn't train jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
you'd probably show him Gary Tonin.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the sickest.
Yeah.
But yeah, always the congrats on getting married. It's not easy to get married these days, right? Yeah, that's good. But yeah. Oh, the fight went good though. Yeah, Darshan really quick. Yeah,
97 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you think he was like too playful? He wasn't taking it serious?
Yeah, for sure. You know, at that point in time in Gary's career, he started to do a little bit more MMA, and I could tell that he didn't have intentions of having a 10-minute war with me. He was thinking like try to find some pockets where he was going to have success and maybe, you know, get on my legs a little bit. I just don't think he really respected you know, because wasn't really thinking that. I was trying to just get the fight over as fast as possible, you know, and so he wasn't really didn't have the right mindset for that match. I'd say, you know, he should have been fighting like his life was on the line, you know.
Yeah.
But who cares? Whatever. It's just a jiu-jitsu match, you know. But
That was a beautiful,
it was good.
very memorable moment.
Thank you. Yeah, that was good. I saw the opportunity quick, and I was surprised he wasn't defending more. I was like, all right, you're gonna let me go. I was locked in. He's like the Houdini, you know. He's like the defense artist, you know. So I was waiting for it, like his defense to come, you know, and then he tapped. Like, oh shit. Yeah, he's the man, though. I think he's got another. He's doing well in MMA too. At one, I think he's got another fight coming up.
I would definitely want to see him continuing his journey. He haven't had a fight for a long time.
Right.
I saw him on his way back from his last fight. It was in Japan, and he stopped here. So he stopped to train with us, and he gave me those chocolates, the Royce chocolates. You know Royce chocolates? Royce from Japan.
I don't know if I know those
Those
ones.
squares. It's
Oh, yeah,
You know
yeah.
the super famous ones?
Yeah.
Right, it was the first time I ate those. I'm like, Gary, where can I get more of this? So, you know, he gave me like a small packet, but there's the squares, and you put it in, and it melts, and you're like, God damn.
I love when you those things. Blessings, yeah. Yeah.
So good.
Food is so good. I've been so fat since coming here, bro.
Yeah, been eating a lot.
Yeah, the food's so good here. It's insane.
What's your favorite thing you've had here?
I've just been in Waikiki, you know, but I think my favorite thing to eat. I have such a bad sugar tooth, to be honestly. Yeah, so having a lot of sugar, like a lot of shaved ice. I've had shaved ice every day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, plenty with the ice cream.
Bro, do it while you're young, you know what I mean?
On the buffet,
Yeah.
I love food so much, dude. I've had a bad cutting weight gave me bad relationship with food. I remember that 2019 ADCC, I had to lose 28 pounds, 27 pounds, and I was 16. So I was skinny at the time, you know, I didn't have much to lose. And so I had a little over a month to do it, and I never worked so hard in my life. I remember I'd like run to the gym. I'd go for like an hour freaking on the elliptical, hour on the bike. I'd go run 6 miles more in the gym, and then I'd be like running back home, like posting on lamp posts, like about to faint. Like never worked so hard in my life just to try to get the calories off, right? And I was eating like maybe a meal a day. I'd have a little cauliflower rice, you know, or a little freaking turkey with a little bit of salad. Just felt like I was in war or something, you know. And then I made the weight. It was a 3-day competition for the ADCC, so I weighed in Friday, no problem. Weighed in Saturday, no problem. And then I fought on Saturday, and so I was so dead that I felt like I gained 10 pounds on Saturday just eating and drinking. So I had to lose that to fight Sunday.
After your Saturday fight,
Yes.
you gotta cut weight again.
Yes, I fought
Jeez.
twice Saturday. And so this is why it fucked my relationship with food, right? So I'm like the whole time just thinking about food, right? And I'm like, and I got it. I got it on Saturday morning, right? And then I gained 10 pounds, you know. and I had to lose it. It's so messed up. So I hit the sauna for an hour. They closed the sauna down at the hotel I was at. The gym closed. I was in the sauna for an hour straight with 2 sauna suits on, right? For an hour straight, no rest. My brother had shorts on, you know. He was like coming in and out, like he's getting hot, you know. He's like taking breaks. I'm like, you bitch. No. So I'm in there just dying, dude. I'm like literally just making sure my heart's beating, you know. I'm like, this horizontal, just dying, and then I make it out. I only lost 4.5 pounds. I'm like,
oh shit!
Damn.
I go on Uber, dude. I Postmate or Postmate the freaking the Epsom salt to the hotel. You know, I'm on FaceTime at like 2 a.m. with my friend who knows about Epsom salt. I've never taken one in my life. You know, how do I do this? He goes, get it hot as you can. Pour the salt in. You know, let's do a pound. I think I poured way too much. I poured like 4 pounds of Epsom salt in there, and then I just hopped in the bath. Like the longest, like I was in there for like 10-15 minutes, and my heart was just like felt like it was beating out to here. Like I just could not be there any longer. You know, I was like, I got out. I kind of got my heart rate down a little bit more. I got back in the bath for like 5 more minutes, same deal, just like pounding out. At this time it was like 3 a.m. So then I just wrapped myself in a bunch of towels, you know, and I had weigh-ins at 6, you know, so I got like a couple hours of sleep, and I was just like, my mom and my brother were in the hotel room just looking after me, you know. I was like, just make sure my heart's still going. Yeah, just like, make sure it's beating, you know, because I just felt like so compromised, you know. Dragged myself over to weigh-ins. I didn't even check my weight in the morning because it didn't matter. Like I couldn't have done anything else, you know. Like that was all I had, you know. And I dragged myself over to weigh-ins, and then I had to be 145. I was 45.1, and I had underwear on, so I made it. You know, so I was like, fuck. I made it. I went straight to the buffet. Yeah. Chocolate croissants, orange juice, oatmeal, dude. It's not nutrition, but everything, you know. And I went from 145 to 185 in 3 days. I gained 40 pounds in 3 days.
What?
Yeah, I was on the couch, right, on my family's couch, and I had a bucket right here, and I was just horizontal, like throughout the day, for a couple of days. I'd just be I was all sore from the comp or whatever and tired, you know. It's a big weekend, you know. I'd just be like this, horizontal. I have my bucket constantly on Uber Eats or Postmates. And then my mom, she realized I had a bad problem, you know, so she stopped putting money on my account. She was managing my finances, you know, at the time. So she stopped putting money on my account, so I couldn't order Uber or nothing, you know. But I still had some cash. I was going like Domino's, Pizza, everything that delivered, you know. And I was eating so much. I was sponsored by Bonsai Bowls, also free, you know. So the only time I'd move to get a Bonsai Bowl, you know, and I'd take it back home. I'd be on the couch. I was throwing up in my bucket, and I was eating more. I was like throwing up. I was filling up my bucket. I had a little 5-gallon, you know, and I was eating more, like pastries and nothing, non-stop. And for a while, it took me a while to kind of like regulate after that, you know. I was just like sugar. So every once in a while, still after my fights, you know, I was like for a week or two, kind of like Patty Pimblett style, you know. I'll go on a bender, yeah.
Nah, send it. You earned it.
Yeah, right.
I think Max does kind of the same thing.
Right.
Early in his career at your age, he was very, you know, he would weigh in straight eating donuts right after. Or what was his thing? Cupcakes, right? That was his thing.
To each their own. Carbs is carbs, yeah. Sometimes they're good. So funny.
Dang.
Sometimes you gotta do it, man.
Yeah, for sure.
You're a walking ad for Uber Eats, Postmates, bro. Just like
sponsored by Uber Eats.
Yeah, they look at me like, how? Why?
It's so much money, bro.
The
for sure.
Fight.
So gnarly.
Okay, another crazy moment in the career when your brother won CJI and got $1 million.
Yeah.
And were you guys were fighting in the same bracket, no?
Same bracket, yeah. The plan was to meet up in the finals, you know, and everything was going according to plan until my second match. I ended up in the first minute. I tore like 3 or 4 different ligaments in my knee.
Jeez.
And I was like, I was so bummed because I realized it was like the first time I like fully blew out my knee pretty good. I knew it was like there wasn't much I could do. So I was like limping around for like a couple extra rounds, you know, but I just like every step was so much pain, you know, there wasn't much I could do, you know. I was like, fuck. And so from there, I just went coach mode. You know, I'm like, all right, Cade, you got to hold it down. And I had nothing but faith that he was gonna do it until he fought Andrew Tackett. Yeah. And then, because after that, like, that was probably one of the sickest matches of all time.
All time.
In jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm not just saying that because it's my brother, you know, like one that I've seen. Like, it's just, if you wanted to show someone a match and never seen jiu-jitsu, it's probably the match to show them, you know. It's
For sure.
So, such a good match. But yeah, Cade had wars all the way through that, you know, and so I remember after that, I think that was the third match of the competition. He was so dead. His forearms he just had nothing to him, you know. They just weren't coming back, you know. They were dead. And then I'm like, all right, you got one more, dog. And I always give real good pep talks before you know he gets back in there. All the times that Cade's been like broken before comp, I always give him like a good little. I always tell him what he needs to hear, you know. Before having that twin little camaraderie, we always know what we need to hear, you know. And then I said something real cheap. Cade's real like dramatic, like kind of like a Braveheart, you know what I mean? When he's, you know what I mean? So I gave him something real like war oriented. You know? I was like, dude, this guy, Cade, you're gonna let this guy kill you? This is war. You're literally gonna let him kill you? You're gonna die, like a bitch. You're gonna die, you know? Like you're gonna let him kill you, you know? I know you're fucked because I can't feel my arms. He goes, I can't lift my arms. I go, you're gonna let Levi beat you. You know, it's the same guy that beat me and I had fought Levi a couple years prior. I submitted him pretty good. And I fought him in the gi, no gi, always smashed him pretty good, you know. And it was so bummed. Like this had like the freak accident. Like my foot got sent to my chest and got in such a weird angle, and then boom, and just exploded. And then he wasn't really doing anything for the rest of the match. You know, he's kind of like a very passive fighter. You know, he's not like a you know, and so that's what I was telling Katie for the match. I'm like, you're gonna let Levi, like, of all people, you're gonna let Levi, you know? I'm like, I almost pretty much just beat him on one leg, you know? You're gonna let Levi, you know? Don't let Levi, you know? I'm like, dude, this is war. You're gonna let Levi kill you? I'm like, he paints his nails, dude. And that's the type of shit that Kate needs to hear before a fight, you know? That's what I was telling him. He's like, oh, fuck. Classic. You know, he gets in there, and he was so dead, you know. I could tell. Watching him, I was, like, almost disappointed in the match. I could see how dead he was. He was, like, just doing the bare minimum of what he had to do, you know. Just, you know, but he got it done. He controlled the match, and, you know. Yeah, so I was so stoked. He won the $1 million. I was like, fucking
$1 million.
Normally, like, all the wins we have, they're not so much, none of it's financial. It's more, like, glory. It's all about the glory, you know, But this time I was like, fuck, Millie, dude. It was funny. Before the comp, we were saying, like, no matter what, we're going to split it with each other, you know. And I thought for sure we were going to be there in the finals no matter what. And so after he won, I'm like, all right, let's see what happens, you know. I was in the finals, you know. But, and then we got into a little bit of, like, some brotherly, you know, just having a twin, you're always going to have your your beefs, you know. So right after that, we had a couple random little unrelated beefs too, you know. It's like, oh, I'm not getting that half for sure. I'm not getting that for sure.
You know, the crazy thing is you have to pay taxes on it.
Absolutely.
So it's not really $1 million because when you water it down, it becomes $600K, right?
You would know more that we were surprised, and all that. Yeah, we didn't have the best, so we're figuring all that stuff out now. We're having to grow up. We should probably talk to you on that end of things. We're still freaking at the simple jiu-jitsu mind, you know. We gotta elevate a little bit.
But that's a huge achievement, and I love the fact that you know, that kind of set the tone for jiu-jitsu, the sport itself, to make more money. You know, he elevated. Now everybody gotta pay, because before, if you would have gone to the IBJJF, which is the International
BJJ Federation,
then you have the who's and who's fighting against each other, and there's no like a prize. There's no like a winning prize where you're like, oh, I win, I'm gonna get a big check. You get like a minor check.
How it was like for jiu-jitsu, the best in the world, you know, for the past decades, you know. They go to the world championships and they, you know, go through hell to win, you know. Especially the Brazilians, I'd say, have it the worst, right? Because they're coming from Brazil. A lot of them don't have a lot of money, right? You know, and so they're coming all the way over here to have to get to the world championships. You know, they go through hell to win the worlds. You know, and at the time they weren't winning anything. You know, or at this point in time they just recently bumped it to like $7,500. You know, so like that maybe covers their plane flight and then like the camp they had, maybe, you know,
Maybe.
and then yeah, so you see like 5-time world champions just like hurting, you know what I mean? Just like, they have nothing to show for it. You know, they had to go back, open up their gym, and you know that's what they did have was their name. You know what I mean? So that people would want to go train with them. And
Yeah.
nowadays it's changed, thank God. You know, but yeah, it's crazy to see so many legends go back and just like are hurting. You know, it's like the sickest of all time. You're like, how is this possible? You know, it's crazy.
But to be fair, this year CGI wasn't as exciting without you, without the Tekken brothers. You know,
They changed up the rules set a lot, and
Yeah.
it was a big mistake. The original one was pretty solid.
solid. The
Yeah,
energy,
exciting.
everything was, was
I
crazy.
wasn't as motivated to do this one and had the MMA match. And I don't know why the Tackets didn't do it. Maybe the UFC stuff.
Yeah, because they got the UFC contracts. That's why.
That's
they
what it
couldn't.
is, right?
Yeah.
That sucks. Yeah, it sucks when you're tied down to only one. You know, if you can't go around. One's cool because they allow us to do IBJJF and the ADCCs, CJI, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, it's tough when you don't get the best going against each other. You know, you want to watch
Yeah.
John surf against Kelly, and you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Gabriel surf. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah, you want to have the best of the best. That's what.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But in general, you know, what came out of this is more respect for the athletes. What came out of it is people are now obligated to pay.
Right.
People realize, the athletes realize that if you want to see me at my best, you want me to do a camp, you want me
Right.
to go through this shit and being with Epsom salt in the fucking
Right.
bath for hours and then go sauna and then this, you want me to go through all that shit?
Totally.
You need to pay for my time. You need to pay for my camp, for
Right.
my people. Like,
Doesn't need to be baseball numbers, you know, but a little bit, you know, just to make it worth it, you know.
yeah, 100%.
For
I
sure.
couldn't agree with you more. I mean,
Yeah,
it has
yeah.
to, you guys have to make a living out of this.
And also, it's up to the athletes to make it exciting enough to make
Yeah.
it marketable enough,
Yeah.
profitable. Like, I truly believe when you got two guys, like they double pull and they just 50-50. I call it like the ultimate scissor championship sometimes. You know, they're just in 50-50, just like sitting there the whole time, you know. I'm just like, man, it's so bad for the sport. You like,
Yeah.
hey, come watch a jiu-jitsu match, you know. And these guys are just like,
Scissoring.
just spewing their literally, you know. Yeah, it's like they're scissoring. Yeah, grown men, you know, on steroids. Yeah, you know what I mean. They get up and they're in their stance, you know, getting ready, you know. They're doing all like their freaking pre-fight, you know, just to go. And then after 10 minutes of scissoring, they get up and they rip their gis open, beat their chest, you know. Like, no way, dude, you can't do that after that, you know. It's
Brad, this is classic what you just said. This is so true. This is,
so true, right? Yeah, dude. Even how I felt like when I was fighting Levi at the. No shade, you know, and Levi is a cool person, you know, and all respect to him, but like he knew I was hurt, you know, and like at that point in time, he could have like tried to come up and sweep and come on top, and I was like literally just turning around, like giving him my back and looking at him and like walking into him, and he was climbing up my back, right, and I was just waiting. I wasn't doing anything, and I was waiting, and the second that I looked at him, he like dropped off my back and pushed me away, and he knew I was injured, you know, and I'm like, I'm just trying to get any sort of connection, you know,
Yeah.
so I can at least look, you know, and he just keeps and I'm literally for 10 minutes I was just like staring at his gooch for 10 minutes straight. He's just sitting there like this, you know, and I'm just like, bro, like there's no way this can be good for the sport, you know.
Yeah.
Like this is not exciting, you know, this is not exciting, nor
except
is
for the LGBTQ community.
you're right, bro. Yeah. You'll be fired up on that. You know? I say we start another league for that. You know what I mean? Yeah, do all the scissoring you want. You know? But like, I'm a little biased. You know, I like takedown pass submit. And I'm not against guard when it's like Dante Leon has a sick guard. You know, he's like, fuck. He's active from it. Tries to do arm drags. Tries to wrestle up when his leg locks aren't working. You know, he's trying everything. You know, but like if you're trying leg locks and it's not working for 10 minutes, you know, at that point you should probably try something else, right?
Yeah.
Like Kate always used the analogy like if you know those fiddler crabs at the beach, you know, like that they're in the holes, they'll pop out of their hole, but they won't go like more than like 3 feet out of their hole because there's predators like seagulls, you know, and they'll get it. They're quicker, you know, so they stay like within 5 feet of their hole, and whenever there's a predator, they just go right back in their hole, you know. It's kind of like that kind of game, you know.
Yeah.
It's like you might venture out just a little bit, like he might climb up on my back a little bit, but the second that like I start to face him, he pushes me away and goes back to that. And it's just bad for the sport, you know. Like to me, like if I was, like I wouldn't expect to be paid for that match that I had with Levi, because I didn't think it elevated the sport in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? But that match that Kate had with Andrew Tackett, you know, like that's a sick match. That's a valuable match for sure, you know.
Legendary, and it's gonna be remembered for
Yeah.
the history forever.
And those, like, we could have so many more matches like that, have our opponents just want to go head to head, you know. And like you look at Andrew, all his matches are like that, you know. Cade's matches are pretty much all like that, unless he fights someone that's real, you know, defensive and stagnant, you know. At the end of the day, it takes two to tango, you know. And so yeah, we should be getting paid as long as we're putting on shows, you know. I think, you know.
But at the same time, you know, like if I take into consideration, for example, Kaynan Duarte versus Craig Jones, where Craig Jones just trying to leg lock and Kaynan doesn't let him move for like 10 minutes.
Right.
I still feel that's jiu-jitsu, because there's a grown man, both of them have the same goal, but you are able to
shut down
and force your way on someone, a grown man, and he cannot do
100%.
nothing. So I know the crowd went like boo, and then they got mad and like again, and he got penalties and whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, if you're getting positions of control, if you're in side control and mount, and you're just holding them, then like, okay, yeah, it's time for you to submit. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we're doing jiu-jitsu. It's about the finish. We have to get the
submission
finish.
grappling.
Yeah,
for sure.
and also even for the show portion of it, like no one like pulls in the barrel and just intentionally stays in it, except for like Shane Dorian maybe, like in a heat, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Straight up.
yeah, you got to make it out and you make the score. You know what I mean? Same thing. Like you got to finish the fight. You know, that's what people come to see.
Yeah.
They come to see you paddle out and come to see you surf. You know.
Yes.
And how do you feel about how do you feel about the fact that everybody is like roided out and you guys are staying natural? Are you?
Yes. Yeah. 100%. We've always been natural, and we get a lot of flack for complaining about it a lot, you know, so I don't even like to complain about it too much, you know. Honestly, it's what we've had to deal with in jiu-jitsu our whole lives, and it's just in the jiu-jitsu culture a lot, you know. And it's just because there was really no testing in jiu-jitsu ever, you know, and so it was just really normal. I think in Brazil it's almost a little bit more socially accepted, you know, and that's where jiu-jitsu really comes from, you know, and so at least I've seen a lot of gyms, you know, over there. Protein is expensive and steroids aren't as expensive. You know what I mean? You know, like a box of protein works not half as good as steroids. It's going to be twice as much, right? So like that math is probably not adding up for them, wanting to get out of, you know, where they're at, and you know, and to freaking get to the world championships. You know, they need, you know, so. Kind of like it's hard for me to like sit here and bag on them, you know, and you know, and
But it's not necessarily about how, you know, how do you address it in your own regiment, you know? Forget about them. You just knowing that they have an extra oomph, how do you, in your preparation, take that into consideration?
just going into say like how my brother, I was saying earlier, how we always need to stay safe before anything else. You know, that's how I train, and it's the same thing. With training, fighting, anywhere. You have to train yourself to be safe. You have to know your body and to know, you know, your opponent too, you know, and just to make sure that nothing stupid happens. Like that's always when injuries happen, is when you're not thinking about staying safe first and foremost, you know. My brother, that's when he tore his ACL. He was just doing a random little striking class, not thinking about grappling, and the guy he was with just kind of just all of a sudden like went body lock and then just tried to like take his leg out, you know, and then just freaking Cade wasn't thinking he was gonna grapple, you know, and all of a sudden his knee just freaking. So you always got to be ready for the, you know, for no matter what. And yeah, as for steroids, every once in a while you just got to change your game a little bit in jiu-jitsu. The stronger they are, you know. I've had to fight some guys so big, so strong, you know, and things just have to change. You can't take as big a risk as you would with someone your size, you know, because, you know, there's even just little rules that there's things you can do with someone my size, your size, I could do with you that I could never do with someone like Kynan, you know what I mean? He's just, too big, too strong, you know? So, yeah, there's a lot of little technical stuff, you know? But overall, it's just staying safe, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
Pinch the track mark, huh?
I think we're the only sport where people can just like, you know, get steroids.
That's crazy. I didn't think it was. I didn't know it was that common and widely accepted. And then now it makes total sense now that you break it down like that. Because I didn't even think like how desolate Brazil is when it comes to athleticism and the kind of opportunities and resources they have compared to us. Like
they got so many athletes, bro. Brazilians are athletic people, you know. But like, for a lot of their opportunities are out of Brazil, right? You know, and at least for the jiu-jitsu, like that's been the common theme from what I've seen. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, and it's crazy because, you know, and it goes right into that Mika Galvão kind of story, right? And it sucks because I first fought Mika, he was like 14, 15, and I was like, this kid might be on steroids. He was very strong, you know, but that's when I can more him. I'm like, okay, I was like, maybe he's not on steroids, you know? And then 2 years later, just the amount of strength, it was just unfathomable, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I started to realize, I'm like, man, he's only 16, you know? And I'm like, so if he's this strong at 16, he's probably been on steroids for at least a year, you know? Yeah. And that means he's been on steroids since he was 15, you know? And like how bad is that for your health? Like putting a 15-year-old on steroids. And that's nuts. Why they even, like a lot of the one that he got popped for, it was for having low testosterone, you know? And it's to rebuild your testosterone after it's already, you know? So you're already playing that game with your body at 15, 16 years old.
And it's peak testosterone. That's like peak testosterone production age. Yeah.
For, you know, and then for what? For 10 years of glory, you know, for like, and then your joints are fucked, and then your balls are shrunk, and then, you know, there's all these side effects, you know, you're losing your hair, your chin's grown, you know, there's all this stuff. Yeah, and I'm not, and then I get a lot of like older guys that talk shit, you know, that say, oh, like, I couldn't care if you're older and you take some testosterone, like, good for you, bro, good on you, you know, like, TRT replacement when you're older, it's like what you need, right? And then obviously probably don't just do it yourself with random, you know, it's probably better to get a good doctor, you know, because at the end of the day, anytime you're putting foreign substance in your body, it's scary, you know. But I'm all up for that, whatever, you know, to each their own. You know, my dad just like keeps coming to me, so I'm gonna do steroids, and I'm like, just wait, Roots, because I know his habits. He just eats sugar all day, he doesn't stretch, you know. I'm like, just wait, because you kind of got to be healthy when you do that, you know. Like, so it's good to be on, you know what I mean? It's like, don't just do steroids and freaking
and just let it work.
I just let it work.
Exactly. It's supposed to work.
Exactly. You know what I mean? He's a beast already, you know. I'm like, you're already a beast. You don't even need it.
You guys train a lot together?
Right now he's living in Costa Rica, and Kate and I are doing a lot of MMA and jiu-jitsu back home in OC, so whenever we get to Costa, we train together. But, growing up, we were always training together.
You choke out your dad?
Yeah, not anymore. Kate always goes harder than I do. I don't know why. I'll cruise with him, and I look at Kate, he's like fucking him up. I'm like, what are you doing?
He's like, this is
Roots
war.
got like mat burns on his face. It's a little bit sometimes. It's so funny.
What about you build a compound over there in Costa Rica?
Yeah, we got that spot, Costa Rica's always been so special to our family because, like I said, anytime Kate and I got burnt out on jiu-jitsu, we'd go there as a family. And my dad, he always wanted to live there before he had my brother and I. And then, you know, he met my brother and I and my mom, and he fell in love with us. And he's like, he raised us in Cali, and postponed. He started building a house like 18 years ago, and you know, he was living out there. His plan was to move out there a long time ago, but he met us all and fell in love with us, and then raised us in Cali. You know, that's where we started jiu-jitsu and surfing, and showed us everything, you know, that we do. You know, and but was taking, building the dream here, the dream over there just was stagnant, so it was just like infested with bats and hornets. It was just sitting there for 18 years. And then the last like 5 years, we've been able to kind of all come together and start all, putting, our effort towards, building it up. And we got a sick little compound now. So we got like a little gym, actually a big gym, cool little like outdoor, pizza oven, outdoor kitchen, nice little pool, and then the main house, couple little cabinas. And it's been last 5 years just competing and grinding all together. And so now he's there full time, living the dream, holding it down, just surfing every day. And he's got his little friends he trains with, and the only thing he's missing is the fam, so
of course.
we just gotta keep handling shit so we can all get over there and cruise. But that's the goal, build the compound right where the jungle meets the beach. It's a sick spot. You guys gotta come out and anytime. We'd be stoked to have you guys.
We're gonna take you up on that.
Absolutely, come out for real. It's a sick, beautiful wave, like unbelievable wave. And it's similar to here, it's just tropical paradise, it's beautiful.
Just like a quarter of the price.
Yeah, it's then maybe Waikiki, for sure. Yeah. It's like Costa. It's not as cheap as like Mexico or Thailand, but it's you can get better food for cheaper for sure.
Yeah.
It's just so much easier to live healthy out there compared to the States for me, out there eating real food and surfing 4 hours a day and just having fun, It's not like I'm trying to, it's just easy. Good lifestyle.
We will definitely gonna take you up on that, and one day show up, knock knock.
Come, hey! You guys are welcome, bro.
Pura vida.
Yeah, pura vida, dude. My dad's there solo. He's lonely. He just holds it. Yeah, he's just cruising there alone, dude. He's got all this stuff, and then we just get over there after the fights, when we can. So. Yeah.
That's epic.
Go train with them. You'd be stoked.
That's epic. And we have something small for you. I know you have a tight schedule today. We have something small for you. We have an award for you. It's the Aloha Hour Hama Award.
What?
Yes.
No way. Yeah. So sick. You guys are legends. Thank you
are
so
legend.
much.
Thank you.
Unreal. That's so rad. The Aloha Hour Hama Award.
Thank you so much.
What a hammer. You guys are so rad.
I just want to say one thing before you go, bro. Do not lose this spirit, bro. You've had so much joy talking about jiu-jitsu and surfing and life that I think that's the one thing I'm taking from you, that excitement of everything you do, bro.
Dude.
I never seen someone smile so much talking about fighting.
I know, dude. I don't know. I love it. I do. I do love
One
it.
time I fucking almost killed this guy. And he broke my knee. Like, bro, I love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
It's
bro.
been a blessing. Yeah, all the way through.
Nice, man. Nice.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much
having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I know your schedule is there's plenty more things to ask you, but I know you have you got to go back to the North Shore and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think so. Today, can I go head over there?
Are you gonna go train over there?
Probably gonna try. Usually, training's not at the highest of my priorities when I'm in Hawaii. But yeah, probably hit the boar's nest or something for sure.
Nice,
yeah,
nice,
guaranteed.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Episode 82. We're out.
Yes,
Yeah, you guys.